RAF Tornadoes have been at the forefront of NATO's mission to protect Libyan civilians. This month, an extra 4 of them have been flying sorties from southern Italy, taking the total to 16. As James Hurst found out, their job is to deliver not only airstrikes, but also vital intelligence.
Some 600 miles from Tripoli in southern Italy, RAF Tornadoes are constantly being readied to fly over Libya. In more than 900 sorties since the start of Op Elemi, they've spent almost 5,000 hours above the troubled country, carrying out hundreds of airstrikes designed to protect Libyan civilians by disrupting government forces, destroying their military hardware, and at times intervening as the fighting happens.
You saw actual rocket launchers firing perhaps 15 kilometres through the air. You see them streaking across and landing in Misrata, which is the point we are then there for. We can weaponeer individually against these vehicles very, very precisely and make sure we take out them alone and stop them from killing the innocents.
When you're watching that happen, I guess you know that every second counts.
Oh, it does, enormously. But the jet's very well set up for dealing with things very quickly. From seeing that happen, we could have it was brimstone we used at the time, in the air within 60 seconds to 2 minutes. Obviously, we take that time to weaponeer. Always at the forefront of your mind is the collateral damage estimate. That is, are we going to hurt any civilians in doing this? In extreme examples, such as that one where they're firing rockets into the city centre of Misrata, you'd probably take a little bit more risk than normal in terms of the greater good. But every time you take care in what you're doing, definitely.
The Tornadoes typically spend around 6 hours above Libya on each task, then it's still an hour's flight back to Italy. When the plane gets back, it carries with it a valuable cargo which it didn't have when it left. Information and intelligence, all in the form of images, which the pilot brings here to the tactical imagery wing. The Raptor pod, carried by one of the Tornadoes, provides high-resolution still images of the ground in Libya. Measurements can be taken, including the heights of structures, and the images can be viewed in 3 dimensions. With no international troops on the ground in Libya, this imagery is essential intelligence for selecting targets.
With Raptor imagery, we're able to zoom in, we can identify personnel on the ground. I mean, the guys are flying from quite a long distance away, they've got a nice far back, so the guys on the ground won't even be aware there's a jet in the actual area. However, we're able to zoom in. We can identify people, whether they're carrying weapons, as a possibility to identify. If the imagery is good enough and the cloud's clear, we can identify weapons on people, weapons on vehicles, number of vehicles. But also, it's good for identifying things like targets with buildings. We can actually identify the sizes of buildings, how many windows they've got, and that's useful for target packs as well.
All the Tornadoes carry lightning pods, which bring back video footage of strikes. These are the videos that are shown on television news around the world, but they have a far greater value. Analysts study them to check the results of bombing raids and any activity that follows. When claims are made that strikes have caused civilian casualties, they're checked against the footage. And in flight, the pilot can use the lightning's video feed to try to prevent civilian casualties from happening.
If a target's been struck, usually vehicles or buildings, rather than people running away, they tend to come and have a look straight afterwards, which obviously is making it difficult for the pilots, because if they've got 2 targets in the same area, that's going to cause them difficulties. But generally you'll see a vehicle explode, and then about 4 or 5 seconds later you've got about 20 civilians coming around to take a look. That's the most surprising thing I've seen happening on the ground.
The Tornadoes of 2 Squadron have been flying from Gioia del Colle for more than 4 months. In that time, the men and women of the squadron believe they've made a big difference.
When I first turned up, we saw the siege of Misrata. Now I've looked down into Misrata and can see that there are market stalls on days of the week. This is a fundamental change.
2 Squadron's time over Libya is almost at an end. The mission, though, is not, and they will be replaced. James Hurst, Forces News, Gioia del Colle.